Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on July the 18th in the year of our Lord 2026, and I've got some great information for you tonight. So let's go ahead, click on Murtech on Rumble, take us over here to my Rumble channel, and this is the episode we're going over tonight, episode 1982. It says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it. Okay, so let's jump into that. And we got Glow. He's given us a chat already. GP Wolco. Hello, Murtech. Hi, Glow. I'll get back with you here in just a moment. Okay, let me click the Show More button and expand out the description box. We have information from Benny Johnson, Daryl Adogg, Glenn Beck, and Matt Morse. But before we get into that, I do have... Glow also gave us a comment here, Rumble number 4. And good evening. We'll be back at 8. Okay, well, thank you. And you are back, so that's great. All right. A Graphics 0 just started following my channel. SF Annette Anita just started following my channel. Never Married Dating.com just started following my channel. Kim 2022 just started following my channel. CLD068 just started following my channel. Babe Mom 24 just started following my channel. K Skyer 48 just started following my channel. Citizen 123 Thomas 456 just started following my channel. And Yearly, I guess, Yearl just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. Sorry if I destroyed your handle there, but I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right there. Dookie Balls 1776 reposted my daily news wrap-up. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1981. Debbie BS reposted my extra 764A. GP Wolco 01, Debbie BS, Viper Senior, and Cotton Ball 31 commented on my episode 1981. Debbie BS commented on my extra 763C. Debbie BS commented on my extra 764A. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 764B. And Ricky, Linda, and Debbie BS commented on my extra 764C. And as you just saw, GP Wolco 01 commented on my episode 1982. So that's great. Let me give this a thumbs up. And thank you, folks, for reposting my videos and your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. Okay, well, let's get into this. Benny Johnson, Trump just broke every rule, exposed massive election theft, fake news, rigged machines, blackmail. Okay, well, I guess that's pretty much says it all. Let's see what it's all about. All right.
President Trump just changed the electoral landscape forever with a fraud firestorm bombshell live address from the White House that broke the entire internet, but was banned on corporate TV. ABC, NBC, and CNN refused to cover it. In this bombshell, President Trump made a number of shocking, hard evidenced claims because he released the actual CIA evidence on the way that elections are stolen in our country and how foreign nations can steal our country and how insecure electronic voting actually is, how much we need the SAVE Act. Trump says that the FBI reported that China attempted to manufacture fake ballots for Joe Biden in 2020. President Trump releases bombshell. China attempting to manufacture fake ballots. Chinese government production of export fraudulent U.S. driver's license to Chinese sympathizers in the United States in order to create tens of thousands of fraudulent mail-in votes for presidential candidate Joe Biden in 2020. And they hid this evidence from the American people. They hid it from you, and there it is. China used CCP assets in U.S. media, social media, to incite the BLM uprising. They said that Iran did this as well. I'll show you the documents. Ahead of the 2020 presidential election, China had an extensive plans to utilize potential cyber operations to sway American public opinion against Donald Trump, alleging that white people hate black people, inciting demonstrations and marches against racial divisions, increasing the level of conflict between police and anti-racist activists, feeding any sense that U.S. law enforcement resents people of color. Look at that. So all of the libtards, every person that shared a BLM black square, you are a Chinese asset. You are also probably an Iranian asset, as has been declassified here. Foreign threats to the U.S. election. It goes through how Russia, Iran, and China are all trying to rig the election. China was trying to rig the election against Donald Trump, and so was Iran. Okay? So Iran didn't want Trump to win. China didn't want Trump to win. Here we go. What was Iran doing? So Iran was trying to attack Donald Trump using civil unrest, domestic protests, racial justice, mail-in voting, and the administration's handling of COVID pandemic. The Supreme Leader actually authorized this. So if you are sharing libtard memes, masking memes, BLM memes, social justice memes, you are doing the will of the jihadist, Iranian, bloodthirsty, death to America crowd. Good job. Great job, everyone. Or the Chi-Coms. Incredible. It's all now available on whitehouse.gov election integrity website. Election integrity here. So there are a ton of documents that they just released. There are thousands of documents actually that they just released. So we're just getting like the little bits and pieces of them rolling in right now. Let's just take the top line here from the president's team. Declassified documents show that in the 2020 cycle, China carried out the largest compromise of election data in history. They took effectively the voter files of every American, names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote, engage in nefarious activities. Evil. Even when significant evidence of fraud had been detected and buried and covered up, among the disclosures tonight, the FBI files detailing evidence of massive fraud operation in Michigan. They kicked in the door of and then the FBI completely covered up. FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, but Joe Biden slow-walked the investigation for years. Kash Patel has got to get it done. They said they're not going to cover the speech, Donald Trump says. They don't like the topic, how corrupt our system is. We got to pull their broadcast licenses. Wild. So here we go. Put it together. These disclosures reveal that an election system is broken and vulnerable.
These disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail.
He's pissed. You can see it here too, by the way. So some of the files that we've downloaded, summary of the intelligence reporting for Venezuela's electronic manipulation capabilities. Oh, I thought this was safe and secure, and that was the safest and most secure election ever. Turns out that's not true. They were lying to us the whole time. Here's directly from the CIA that Venezuela Smartmatic was used to manipulate election results using pre-programmed voting machines. These machines were deployed in 300 voting centers. This is talking about Venezuela's election. Traditionally pro-Chavez areas to ensure the voting machine was he won by approximately 1.5 million votes. He ended up winning by 1.6 million votes. So they plugged in the algorithm into the machines. The machines created fake ballots, fake votes. and he was able to win. And they assess, the intelligence community, that the Venezuelan government manipulation of electronic voting systems and potential national security implications for U.S. elections and infrastructure. The intelligence community established that the Venezuelan government officials developed sustained interest in likely capability of manipulating electronic voting systems, including Smartmatic technology. There it is. Insane. And that this could, at scale, this could rig elections in the United States. That's what this says. We have it now. We have the documents. No one can call us election deniers. We have the documents. Beijing's effort to shape U.S. policies in China. This goes through how Beijing is hoovering up all this evidence in order to blackmail American politicians and administration officials. So it's like the full Eric Swalwell. Vulnerabilities of U.S. elections and infrastructure. Again, this is saying that Russia and China and Iran are trying to hack our elections, and that they can hack our elections because of, look, they're playing Doom on a voting machine because everything is connected to the internet. It's all electronic. And that this could, they don't have proof of it, but they could rig our elections through electronic voting machines. You need to get rid of these machines. And then DHS released these numbers. Insane numbers. 250,000 non-citizens are eligible or registered to vote. Of course, they're not eligible. They're illegally here. And they are illegally voting in our election. Georgia, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas. Deceased and non-citizen voters. Even in Republican states, you have thousands of non-citizens voting. Or at least registered. Thousands. President Trump just like going ballistic on all of this. Amazing. 250,000 non-citizens illegally registered in just 4 states. Insane. I can't believe the documents. I can't believe it's real. It's finally out there.
Confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country.
The FBI claiming to run a shadow government. Crazy. The big picture is this. We don't have secure elections. That our foreign enemies can hack our elections and do so very easily through birthright citizenship, through electronic voting, through shipping in fake driver's licenses, through BLM and left-wing organizations. And so we have to fix it. That's the main takeaway from all of this. Join us in fixing it. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Like a dog with a bone, man. This is the issue of our time. The Western civilization will ebb, fall, fail, or will be renewed if we can fix this issue and make sure only Americans vote in our elections. I can't believe it's come to this, but here it is. This is our fight. Join the channel. Like, share, and subscribe. It's your boy, Benny.
Alrighty. Well, you know, we've known this information. I mean, I knew it from the second they said it was the most safe and secure election in our history. You know, when I saw things on TV as the election was happening, okay, closing down counting polls. What was it, 9 of them closed down about the same time? Trump was ahead, and then when they opened up the next morning after they stopped counting, Biden was ahead. Huh, amazing. Okay? And I believe that things are going to change by this next election. I believe things changed the last election in 24. The RNC had like, I believe it was 50,000 volunteer poll watchers, which held down the cheating. And there definitely wasn't as many mail-in ballots this last election in 24 as there were in 20, simply because they didn't throw another fake pandemic on us. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this election turns out. I believe it's going to be favorable for us conservatives. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Benny Johnson. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what the real Adogg has to say about this changed my view on President Trump. You won't believe what just happened to him, okay? Well, let's check this out.
Go ahead and dive straight into it because I definitely got to show y'all this. So it's say NBC, CBS, and ABC face mass calls to have their FCC privilege licensing re-examined or revoked after they refused to air President Trump's primetime bombshell address surrounding elections tonight. Are they colluding to filter and censor the President of the United States?
The world's most famous sore loser will deliver a primetime presidential.
Look at them calling Donald Trump a sore loser. Look at these people. They don't want him. They didn't want him to do it. Now he want to call Donald Trump a sore loser.
The world's most famous sore loser will deliver a primetime presidential sour grapes address.
The president is free to say whatever the president wants to say. There's a lot of speculation that he's going to take back to 2020. I'm one who's always looking forward instead of in the rearview mirror.
I've seen a lot of reporting and frankly misreporting about what the president will say. I think the American people will be relieved to hear what they are hearing from the president.
Well, the president says he's going to make news with new intelligence documents about the 2020 election. He says in this speech that he's going to talk about election integrity, but that's not all. He's also going to talk about Iran, and he's going to talk about the way forward with the U.S. economy. Reuters has that ABC and NBC will not air the president's election security speech on broadcast networks.
That is crazy. They would not air it. But as you see right here, say the mainstream media has been gaslighting and pushing nothing but lies and propaganda to the American people for years, even refusing to broadcast the president himself. Our country can't go on like this. It's time we hold them and their elite capable puppet masters accountable. Wow. Look at this right here. Look at these right here. Absolutely insane. So refusing. He missing CBS. So all four of them decided that they weren't going to do it, but guess what they did afterward? They started, Donald Trump is lying. Donald Trump, these are the same people who didn't air it. So, they want to pick out pieces and bits and stuff like that. Like, come on, man. Come on. Trump demands the FCC yank license over media blackout, calls to pass the Save America Act.
Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption.
Yep.
China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls. And yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th. Think of that, much more than 1 month.
Yep.
It took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have. In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets. Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, really, we should be together, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. It should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again.
That's right.
Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act.
Got to pass it.
How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat.
That's a fact. That's what it is. Chuck Schumer, them, Hakeem Jeffries, they want to cheat, and they know if the Save America Act get passed, they are done. Absolutely. That's the reason why they don't want to pay. That's why they pretty much like plotting to try to shut down the government as we speak. They don't want the Save America Act passed because they know that they're not going to win because they have to cheat to win. That's the reason why you heard Hakeem Jeffries say, "Oh, we're going to win. I'm not worried about it," because he know they're going to cheat. That's the reason why you got Chuck Schumer coming out saying, oh, if the Save America Act come here, it's going to be dead on arrival. We ain't voting for it. We ain't doing this. It's like, what? Then calling President Trump saying the show ID is Jim Crow? What? So, like I said, once again, salute to the president, man. And here go a guy right here who pretty much was going off, said Trump should remove NBC, ABC, CNN after they refused to air his explosive election speech. Check it out.
Our media last night proved that they are an arm of the Democratic Party. The way the news is supposed to work is it's supposed to receive what's said, go through it, and then make a determination. Before anything was released, they because they're leftists and they're not hiding it. They've never tried to hide it. They've never hid who they support. We know that CNN supports the Democrats. They're not supposed to be like that. They're supposed to report the news. We know that ABC supports the Democrats. We know that NBC, before anything was released, they had already started putting up posts and started already trying to debunk anything that was said.
Yep.
This is the president of the United States. He's no longer just a normal person making an announcement. This is the president of the United States. I think Trump should remove them from the press briefing. I think they all should have their to be removed. All of them that didn't air it should be removed. And I think they should allow independent journalists, like Daily Wire and people like me and others that Caroline had already started doing that a little bit, but they need to make it all people like that in conservative news and also independent news that really reports the news, like maybe even Newsmax, News Nation, places where they actually report the news. I think you stop giving these people a new ABC because they're not reporting the news. They are running cover for the Democrats. They are trying to get the Democrats back in office. That's what the goal of the NBC and ABC are, is the cover for the Democrats, and they proved it last night. They lost all the shred. If they had any integrity left, they lost it last night.
I agree.
They completely lost it because it is not the job of the news media to protect us from information. Their job is to report the facts. If it's false, let your viewers, you don't obviously think your viewers are smart enough to understand what's true and what's false.
And he's exactly right. So, like when you have like Caitlin Collins, they be asking questions. Once you kick her out the room, tell her that she can't, since CNN didn't want to air it, she can't come in here asking you questions at the White House anymore. Like that's what I would do if our president done, just like he said. Don't let any ABC, CNN reporters coming up asking questions or anything like that. When you got CNN, ABC, CBS, all of them didn't even want to air his address. I mean, that was insane. Even check out this young lady.
The major news outlets refuse.
A quick reminder.
In a rare move.
So the major news outlets refuse to air President Trump's live speech addressing the nation about how we are about to do something about voter fraud, all the fake news, and everything surrounding what is going on in our nation. Now, if you guys do not think that this may not be the start of something bigger, since when does the President of the United States not get live coverage when they address the nation? On top of that, the news outlets were briefed that he was going to be talking about these topics. So I find it very funny, ABC, NBC, CNN, that you guys decide, no, we'll talk about it afterwards. We'll stream it online, but we will not give it live coverage.
They show what they did.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Great information. I like the real Adogg. Glow, you're saying you like this guy? I like him too. I should share more of his information, but as it is, he's strictly on YouTube. Let me show you here that this is the video I shared with you. The real Adogg. I am subscribed to his YouTube channel. I've given him thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, we're going to move on here with Glenn Beck, and what Donald Trump said, is important. And there's a lot of podcasters and reporting on his announcement, his address to the nation, and rightfully so, because it is important. I mean, the future of our country and the integrity of our elections is all wrapped up in what he said. Let's hear what Glenn Beck has to say about this.
Said
Okay,
the president never said last night that the election was stolen. He never said last night that they had stolen the election or stuffed the ballot box or anything like that. What the president showed last night were documents that proved China ran the largest known theft of American voter data in history. 220 million files. That's your name, your address, your phone number, your party affiliation, everything run through a dedicated exploitation unit in Beijing. They have a whole building for this, okay? Now, I want to give the fact checkers, the first bonus point, because on the nose, look at you can do some work. There is no evidence, none, that China reached into a voting machine and flipped a ballot or changed the outcome of 2020. But that wasn't the charge. The media is treating this story as if that's what the claim was, but that's not the claim. The outcome was never the frightening part here. There are two things that you need to know that were discussed last night, and I'm going to lay them out in the next 15 minutes, okay? So just hold on with me. First point. According to the declassified material, a hostile foreign power known as China spent years assembling a file of 220 million American voters, names, addresses, phone numbers, party, everything. The rhythm of when you show up and when you don't go out to vote. Important information. And the response that the media is giving you today is, most of it's public anyway. You can buy all of that stuff. Okay. All right. Well, that's true. And it is precisely the opposite thing to find comforting. Any one fact on that list is harmless. Your address is not a weapon. Your party registration is not a weapon. The weapon is the assembly, the 220 million profiles in the hands of one regime, the one regime on earth that has already shown us in broad daylight what it does with information like that, with the algorithm. What does it do with that data? This is a country that tunes the recommendation engine on the phone in your kids' hands. By controlling what you or your family sees is power. Now, nobody has proven they've used it that way, but that's their intent, at least according to our own intelligence back in before 2020. While they were saying, it's the safest election ever. You do not want to wait for a hostile power to fire the weapon before you admit it is a weapon. Why do you think we're over in Iran? We're over in Iran because they cannot. We're just using nuclear material for fuel. No, you're not. This is the same argument with China. We're not using it for this. Oh, really? Okay, well, we'll just wait until you push that nuclear button. If it's not, here's the biggest thing for the media. This is information you could buy anywhere. This is no big deal. Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, then why, at the very moment, are states all across the spectrum, red and blue alike, and you have been beating this drum for months? Why are they refusing to hand over the exact same voter data to their own federal government? Most of them told the Justice Department, no way. The courts backed them. You've been singing the praises of these states on the grounds that that information is too sensitive, too personal, and too easily abused just to put it on the loose. I'm so tired of this. I really am. I'm just so tired of this game. It's not a game to most of us. This is not a game. This is our country. This is our lives. You cannot make the case that the United States government should not have the voter data from the states because it's too dangerous to give to our federal government and then in the next breath be on TV and say, you can buy this information just about anywhere. It's really no big deal that China has it. Oh, we're having a furious argument right now on whether Washington can be trusted with the voter file, while we're being told that Beijing holding that voter file is no big deal. It can't be both, media. Make up your mind. Either the data is dangerous or it isn't. Half the nation is in the court right now arguing that it is, and it's your half. I'm sorry. I don't want to be one of these angry guys, but every day I come in with the intent of not being one of these angry guys, and then I look at the news. You want to understand why a pile of information, ordinary facts, terrifies people who study this for a living? Don't look at hackers. Forget about the hackers. Look at East Germany. The Stasi remembered for surveillance the files, the informants, one in every stairwell. People would whisper in their own homes. Why? Because you could buy this information anywhere? No, it was because it was all being compiled. Once overt arrests started drawing too much attention in East Germany, the Stasi learned to break people quietly. How did they do it? They used intimate, aggregated knowledge in all of those files to reach into a target's life and just rearrange things. You put a rumor with a neighbor, a marriage nudged towards collapse, a promotion that never comes for reasons that no one could ever name. The victims they normally didn't even know what was happening. They just thought, I'm losing my mind. And none of it required any dramatic secret. It required knowing an ordinary person completely and just wanting to steer them. That's the capability on the table. Not that they went in and they changed the numbers of the vote, but because China is clearly amassing a file. And let me just read it to you from a declassified email. Also, mid-2018, that this is our intelligence, and they never told the president any of this. China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later results in the 2020 U.S. presidential elections. As part of the campaign, China was analyzing the 2016 presidential elections and identifying U.S. states that voted for the U.S. president. The Chinese would then identify sectors within these states that voted to support the U.S. president and his political party, then would attempt to make those sectors experience negative financial consequences. The Chinese hoped that these measures would induce representatives from these sectors to lobby the president to be more kind to China. But what's worse is they had all of this information where they could take it and nudge you. This is what the algorithm, this is why I say you're going to lose free will. Because you won't know if that was your idea or if that was a nudge. And it's bad enough when I don't know if it was Google or Microsoft, but now you also have to worry that it might be China doing it. At the same time, all of a sudden we're seeing this popularity with communists. You'd think that China's algorithms don't have anything to do with this? You don't think they're running an influence campaign in our own country? Of course they are. This was point number one. But that's not even the most important point. I think this is the bigger problem. Problem number two. The people inside our own intelligence community knew this, discovered this, wrote amongst themselves about it, and then buried it while assuring us the elections were completely secure. That's not a scandal. That is a breach of trust that reaches the foundation of the republic. Okay? Nothing here, I want you to know, has been proven yet in a courtroom. but the documents are clear. These allegations that are drawn from the documents, the White House declassified and released, the allegations, this is so serious, they have to be run all the way down to the ground, because if they hold up in court, what they mean is terrifying. They mean the people who put their hand on the scriptures and swore to protect from all enemies, foreign and domestic, the Constitution of the United States. They decided that the elected leader of the people of the free world, by extension you, that person didn't need to know that a hostile power had a map of the American electorate. That's not incompetence. So they know what that meant. It says it. They knew what they were doing and what it meant. That wasn't incompetence on the intelligence part. That was a decision. Foreign adversary spy. We should always accept that. That's why we have a standing spy agency. They always have. The Republic was built to survive spies. What it was never built to survive is guardians who have then said, I'm no longer a guardian. I'm a gatekeeper of information. I get to decide what the elected president gets to see, what the people are allowed to see, because I don't think they can handle it, or they might react in a way I don't think they should. Our Constitution does not put the power like that into your hands. It puts it in elected hands, accountable hands, not your hands. If they can sit on a foreign adversary's grab of voter rolls, the only honest question that any of us should be asking is, what won't they do? What won't they do? We have example after example, Iran-Contra, we have Vietnam, but it's exactly the same instinct. The president doesn't need to know this. Let me ask you, Democrats, did you have a problem with Iran-Contra? That was the intelligence community saying we didn't tell the president about these things. Now, you've always claimed that he did know, so the fault was really his. But what if he didn't know and the fault was the intelligence? Would it still be such a big problem? Of course it would be. Of course it would be. And that's what this is. Here's the worst part of this. In every case we have seen like this, never this, I don't think ever like this, never this big, never documented trail saying we're massaging the presidential report. We're making sure that we're holding this back. I've never seen that before, ever. Remember, all we had was, what was her name? Fawn Hall, that says, yeah, I did that. We never had documents, but we had hearings, and it eroded our faith. And there was a conviction here or there, and later pardoned, later overturned, but there was no accountability for any of these things, ever. The machine just took the hit and then just kept running, and it's still running. So may I suggest that maybe we look at things differently, because what they've done here is not just unethical. It might be criminal. Obstruction of justice, obstruction or impeding an official proceeding or the president's constitutional duties. Obstructing the president's constitutional duties. You'll find that in U.S. Code 18-1505. Making false statements. Did they misrepresent what they knew to the executive or to Congress? The answer is yes. In their own writing, the answer is yes. Mishandling of classified material and the sworn duty to report a threat? Yep. Coordinated to conceal? Yes. In their own writing, we have that. Now you're into a conspiracy. This carries decades of prison time. Why do we have these laws? Why do we have these punishments if we never enforce them? Their entire oath is to guard the nation's secrets, brief our leaders. The betrayal here is stunning. And by the way, that wouldn't be a call for vengeance. That's a call for restoration, to restore the republic and what it's supposed to do. If this can be proven, if these documents prove to be real, if the people who did this don't answer for it, not to settle political score, but because a self-governing people cannot survive being lied to by its own protectors, then everything is on the table. We must have prosecutions where the law demands them. Reforms with teeth, so no one ever again gets to decide what an existential threat to this country is. I got news for you. Nothing is above the pay grade of the people who actually own this country. And by the way, that's you. Nothing is above your pay grade. Nothing is above the presidential pay grade. These people need to pay for what they have done. Not because I'm after them, but because it cannot happen again to any president. I don't care which party. No intelligence company or agency can keep information from the executive, from the president of the United States. Period. How hard is that for the media to understand?
All right. Great information. That's why I wanted to share it with you. And he hit the nail right on the head, don't you think? Yeah, I think there's some people that should be paying restitution for the crimes that they committed. You know, Pence wouldn't be a bad place to start. Okay? Although I've said there is a silver lining to a lot of the clouds. The silver lining in 2020 was, had Donald Trump won that election, Pence might have been our president today. I don't know. And I know he would have just ripped everything to shreds because he's one of the bigger rhinos. I didn't realize that until he got into Washington, D.C. And, you know, I noticed, I thought, man, that's awfully weird. Everywhere that Donald Trump goes, Pence goes right with him. I mean, you've seen them walking together all the time. And I was wondering if that was so Donald Trump could keep an eye on him. That was even before all this bullshit in 2020 happened. And I wonder if he has to keep an eye on him so he doesn't stab him in the back. But at any rate, this video does come from Glenn Beck. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what Matt Morse has to say. Matt Morse TV, I don't think anyone expected this. Okay, well, let's check it out and see what he's talking about. All right.
We have a hell of a lot to talk about today. First off, President Trump late last night gave his speech about election interference this morning. He has just declassified all of the documents. And so now we know for an absolute matter of fact that not only was the 2020 presidential election stolen, it was rigged, but perhaps even worse, that guess what? The Democrats worked alongside with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, to make all of this happen. We're going to break it all down today. We're going to go through all of the highlights of these now declassified documents. Folks, we have not just one smoking gun. We have like 100 different smoking guns. What's more, over in the Middle East today, President Trump has just given the order to start bombing bridges and other key infrastructure that the Iranian regime has been using to attack civilian vessels traversing the Strait of Hormuz. What's more, rumor has it, we're getting early reports of this right now, right this moment, in fact, that President Trump is actually currently getting ready for an all-out, non-stop bombing campaign, the likes of which we have yet to see really ever in all of history. And also, over here in the United States of America, the Democrat Party, they have just dropped their brand new political platform, really their new manifesto, we'll call it that. And folks, we're going to talk more about this here in a couple moments, but I'll just say real quick, if there was any hope that the Democrat Party would try to moderate themselves and return back from the far left fringes from which they have recently found themselves drifting towards, well, that hope is gone. All hope is now officially lost for the Democrat Party. No, the Democrats of 2026, they really are now just open, self-espoused communists. We're going to break all of that down later on in the show, folks. Things are looking bad for the Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Make sure to hit that like button. Thank you all very much for being here. Make sure to subscribe, follow. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. Go look up the Morse Report. Do me a favor. Go to morsereport.com. It's the best way to support the show. morsereport.com. Everything you could ever want can be found at the morsereport.com. Your wildest fantasies will come true. morsereport.com. But ladies and gentlemen, with that little introductory preamble out of the way, what do you say we go ahead and get right into the broadcast? Because like I said, boy howdy, do we have a hell of a lot to talk about today. First off, ladies and gentlemen, 2020 election interference. Let's just go ahead and get right into the real nitty-gritty stuff. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, following President Trump's bombshell national address late last night, during which he confirmed that the Democrats worked with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, to rig and to steal the 2020 presidential election. Now, this morning, we have just gotten a hold of all of the recently declassified documents proving all of this. And folks, I'm just going to be honest here. All of this is so much worse than any of us could have ever predicted. Let's go ahead and just get right into this, folks. First off, here is some of the intelligence that the CIA had detailing how China tried to defeat President Trump in the 2020 election. We have all the proof. China paid U.S. American journalists and political commentators to write negative stories about President Trump. I want to know who they paid. I want to know not only journalists, which podcasters, which talking heads on CNN, MSNBC, not just journalists in the written media. What about podcasts, talk show hosts on the internet? I want to know who has been getting the money. And you know they're investigating. China inflicted negative financial consequences against states in the U.S. who voted for President Trump by levying tariffs, export tariffs, to China. So let's come up with an example here. Let's say the state of Texas voted for Trump in the midterms 2018 and in the 2020 presidential election. Then China would impose tariffs on the state of Texas specifically because they voted for Trump. Folks, this is what they were doing. We have the proof now. They were imposing punitive measures in the United States for supporting Trump. China invited all sorts of people with all expense paid vacations and trips over to China to get them, quote, hooked on China, so that they could later hit them in the wallet to force them to talk with President Trump about tariffs. So China said, okay, Trump is talking about imposing tariffs on us in China. We don't want that, obviously. We're Chinese. We don't want that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to fly out, all expenses paid, maybe influential figures here in the United States. We're going to fly them over to China. We're going to butter them up. Lavish hotels, nice vacations, whatever. We're going to really grease them up, okay? And then they'll go back to Trump and say, hey, listen, Trump, China's not so bad. Are you sure that you really want to impose trade tariffs on China? Come on, China's not so bad, right, Trump? This was a part of the CCP's strategy. The CCP also applied pressure to financial supporters of Trump's re-election campaign. So if you are someone that was campaigning alongside Trump, you were working on the Trump campaign, you were a big Trump campaign donor, etc., then China would target you and put pressure on you to try to distance you from Trump, from supporting Trump. Real sinister stuff. It gets even worse, folks. This is just tip of the iceberg. The further we go down this rabbit hole, the lower your jaw is going to drop. Bear with me. China also planned to incite racial unrest and blame white people for hating black people in order to sabotage Trump. China had extensive plans to use influence and cyber operations to turn public opinion against the Trump administration. They specifically targeted racial tensions, planning to push the narrative that white people hate black people. They were also inciting demonstrations and marches to highlight racial divides inside of the United States. This is Sun Tzu. This is Art of War. Who's read that book? Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. They also aimed to increase conflict between police and anti-racism activities. Anti-racism activities. So you can imagine like the BLM movement. Okay. China was trying to get in between the police and BLM, turn them against each other, various other left-wing movements. China was trying to create the impression that United States law enforcement resents the government and also people of color. Other themes included political party fights, Congress versus Trump conflicts, women's rights, and alleged U.S. war plans. So China was looking to dig a dagger into whatever, little gap they could identify. Congress versus Trump, women versus Trump, Trump's foreign policy, racial division, police versus anti-police, all of this. Drive that Chinese dagger in, twist it as much as they could every single step of the way. China also had the ability to spread these messages across social media in mass using TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Not Rumble. Notice, not Rumble. And also mainstream media and online influencers. Once again, I'm an online right-wing influencer. This is my wheelhouse. I want to know. I want names. Who in this domain has been taking money from China? Who in this domain has been taking money from China to push not just anti-Trump narratives and rhetoric, but also anti-American rhetoric?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, but this video will be in my daily news wrap-up. So if you join me for that, you'll be able to hear more of Matt Morse's information. Let me click on the Rumble link here. It's great stuff. I just found out about him about, a month and a half ago, and I've been sharing the crap out of him. So again, this is Matt Morse TV. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here, and let me copy these comments. And sorry to hear about the military members that got killed today from the Houthis. But that's, again, you try to make a deal with the devil, and the devil is going to bite you. Okay. All right. Got the comments all copied in there, so they'll be a permanent part of this video. And let me remind you, folks, that these videos that I've shared with you are videos that come directly from the producer's channel. I've got the links to the videos here in the description box. Also, the links to the producer's channel itself if you want to go check out more information. And I'll be sharing more information from Adogg. That's one of the things that I ask about when you chat with me, is let me know your favorite podcasters. I'll probably be doing some extras from Adogg. So let me jump over here to merktech.com and tell you that the videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that I've posted on merktech.com, where I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media, because I search out information that is trustworthy and truthful, so that you actually know what's going on and not have to rely on the lies and propaganda from the mainstream media, if they even report it, like President Trump's address to the nation. They didn't want to report that because they didn't want, their little cult to get injured in any way. I'd like to share all this information with you, but unfortunately I just don't have the time to do so, and that's why I put together Murtek's Daily News Wrap-Up. It says I have 18 videos in here, probably about 10 or 11 hours worth of information. Here we're going to start off with Matt Morris and finish up with his video, move on to Black Conservative Perspective, We the People News, Devory Darkins, The Sean Spicer Show, Dr. Steve Turley, some more Black Conservative Perspective, X22 Report, and LFA TV, and much, much more. So go ahead and take a break right now. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a glass of wine and some cheese and meet me back here in about 15, 20 minutes. Give me time to get this set up in Rumble Studio, and we'll take off from there. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.